the whole premise of this conversation, this series, this message series has been based on one big question. How can we really know if we're getting it right? It being the things in life that most of us are involved with, that most of us are dealing with, kind of it being the kinds of things in life that we're not really sure if we're getting it right, but we desperately want to get it right because we know that if we don't get it right, there will be consequences for it. In fact, there are no do-overs when it comes to these things. I mean, you can pretend you're at recess playing kickball and yell do-over, but nobody gives you a do-over on these big things of life. And if you take a do-over, well, it definitely comes with consequences. Like, how do you get the things right that you don't really even know that you're getting it right until it's been weeks or years, or in most cases, decades? And in fact, it may be getting it wrong that makes you recognize that, we've been not getting it right. So how do you get those things right? Today's topic is gonna be really fun because we're gonna talk about parenting today. How do you get parenting right? And when you think about getting parenting right, it is the epitome of, I have no idea what to do with these people. I mean, getting parenting right is so difficult. For those of you that are parents, right, this will be super helpful for you. If you're not a parent, this will be helpful for you as well, because what we're gonna talk about today is really a lot of kind of relational principles. It'll help no matter what relationships you're in. But if you're not a parent, you may be a parent one day. If today may convince you not to be one, I'm not sure. But if at the end of today, I hope that we all walk out having learned a little something about how to get life right. So specifically within the context of parenting. Now, of course, if you're not a parent and you think about parenting, or maybe before you became a parent, can you remember that? For those of you who are parents, can you remember the days of ignorant bliss before you had children, when you thought you were so busy and you had nothing, you had no time? Remember those days? And you remember you were thinking when we have kids, it's gonna be amazing. You mentally pictured something like this. It's like this stock photo of this is what your life is gonna be like. This is a stock photo because it's like a red-haired mom and a brown-haired dad with blonde-haired kids, right? Automatic stock photo, we know, they're not tricking us. But you remember, right? You were thinking we're gonna be so fun. It's gonna be tickle fights all the time, and it's gonna be game nights, and it's gonna be laughing, and nobody's ever gonna get a spanking. Remember that? We're all gonna sleep. It's gonna be so much fun, right? This is what it felt like before you had kids. And then you had one kid. You had one kid, and everything is messed up. I mean, everything is messed up. You have one kid, and life goes from this to kind of more like that, immediately, because parenting is so difficult. In fact, that's kind of our question today, the specific question. How do we really know if we're getting parenting right? How do we really know if we're getting parenting right? If you were to ask me that question, Gavin, how do you know if you're getting parenting right? Here's my answer. I would say, I don't know. Let's just kind of see how they turn out. Let's just kind of wait. Let's just see how they turn out. I have no idea if I'm getting it right. In fact, I'm not sure I'm gonna know if I'm getting parenting right until my kids are 30 and they've been through counseling a few times, and I'm able to go, yeah, I didn't get that one right. Those two good, those two not so good, In fact, I tell my oldest one all the time, I'm sorry. I tell her sorry constantly. She's 19. I'm like, hun, I'm just sorry. She's like, what are you sorry for? I was like, I don't even know. I'm not getting it right. You're the oldest one. You're the guinea pig of everything. This is the first time we've been to middle school. You were the guinea pig. First time through high school. Now she's in college. I'm like, I don't know how to parent a college kid. So I'm sorry. Your two brothers and your sister, they're just gonna be better than you because we don't know what we're doing. You're the first one, Do you remember when you became a parent? Maybe you brought this kid home from the hospital, or maybe you adopted a child. Maybe you brought them home from a hospital or from another state, and you got home and you thought, oh my gosh, I have to keep this person alive. I don't even know how to do that. I can barely use my microwave and it has a 1-inch thick manual. This kid, I memorized what to expect when you're expecting, but who wrote the book, What to Expect 13 years later after you've expected? That's hard to know what to do. It's so difficult because there really isn't an instruction manual. And here's the thing I think we all believe. We believe that parenting is scary because we're not dumb. We know. We've been to the counselor. We've sat with the counselor. And when we walked in to the counselor's office and the counselor looked at you and said, hey, tell me about your childhood, you started unloading on your parents, right? And do you remember that moment that you thought, uh-oh, that's what my kid's gonna do? That thing I just said, that's gonna come out in a counseling appointment in 23 years. That moment I just had, that hurt. Like that was a bad moment, but it's gonna stick with this person, right? Parenting is scary. And here's why, because we know that what we do today is going to influence how our children kind of turn out tomorrow. Like how we parent today will absolutely, or will influence who our children become tomorrow, but not even just tomorrow, right? Like how we parent today is going to influence how our children begin to live out their lives next month and next year and in 10 years and in 20 years. How we parent today is gonna influence their marriages tomorrow. How we parent today is gonna influence how they parent tomorrow. Like how we get it right today is gonna determine the adult that they become. Here's something I think is true of all of us as parents. Like I think we all realize, even though we forget from time to time, if when we step back, we realize that our goal in parenting is not to parent the child in front of us. What we're really trying to do is to parent the adult who will one day leave us. Like we're parenting with the end in mind, right? Like we're in a way parenting with Thanksgiving of 2040 in mind, when maybe they come back and maybe they bring their kids back. And as hard as it is to have that perspective in the moment, because the moment is so exhausting and it's so tempting to just scream and yell. And the reality though is that we know that we're parenting something way bigger than this moment, that we're parenting for their future, for their adult future. Like we're parenting for their future spouse. We're even parenting for their future children, maybe even for their grandchildren. So I think we take this parenting thing seriously because we understand that there are significant ramifications to getting it right. So with that in mind, I mean, what better thing to do than to like open up the pages of scripture and try to figure out what the authors of scripture kind of wrote about parenting. And if we're gonna do that, we might as well just go to the wisest guy who has ever lived, this guy named Solomon. I mean, outside of Jesus, this guy, smartest, wisest person that has ever lived on the planet. If you've ever read the book of Proverbs, it is chock full of insight and wisdom from this guy Solomon, King Solomon. He's the third king of Israel. And here's what King Solomon tells us to do when it comes to parenting. He says just to start your children off in the way that they should go. And when they are old, like, Thanksgiving 2040, they will not depart or turn from it. Which when I read this the first time, I'm like, 4 weeks into parenting and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need some help. What does Solomon have to say? Start your kids off in the way they should go. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I just want to get him to sleep right now. Like, I just want him to be able to not be bounced for 6 hours to go to bed. I don't know what to do. Like, how do you start your kid off correctly? Like, how do you do that? Do you spank or do you not spank, right? I've actually met some of your kids. I'll be happy to answer that for you later if you want. That was good. Should you spank or not spank? Should you do timeout or not? Should you be their friend or should you be their parent? Or should you figure out how to do both, right? Like, should you put them in private school or public school or should you homeschool them? I mean, again, the questions go on and on and on, and we want to start our kid off right, but Solomon, in a very cool way, is proving our point that we want to parent with the end in mind. To do that, we got to start them off right today. How do you even do that? How do you do that? The best teacher is experience, right? The best teacher is experience, which is why my other 3 kids are gonna be probably better off than my first kid, because I'm experimenting, I'm experiencing with her. But here's what else we know. Experience is the best teacher, but it doesn't have to be your experience. Any experience can be the best teacher. In fact, the absolute best way to learn how to get parenting right is to find some people who have done it right and learn from their experiences. Because I bet they would tell you that they didn't always get it right either, but if we can learn from their mistakes, maybe we can avoid making some of those same mistakes ourselves. So I mentioned this earlier. What we really want to do today for the next 30 or so minutes is have an incredible conversation with some parents that they're too humble to say that they've got it right, but with some parents that have been through it, like been there, got the t-shirt, they have 4 or 5 t-shirts, their kids are a little older. They're not gonna tell you that they know everything about parenting. They are gonna have some really insightful things for all of us to learn, no matter where you are in the sphere of parenting. So I asked Mitchell and his wife Jen to kind of facilitate this conversation with these incredible parents. So if you guys wouldn't mind giving our panel a huge round of applause as they come up and help us all become better parents.
Awesome. How's everybody doing? Hey, how about that stage crew over there getting all these chairs out? Give it up for them one time. Do you ever think to yourself, they think they're hiding because they're wearing black? It's like, we can see you. We can still see you. Hey, my name is Mitchell. I'm so glad just to be here today on this happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to you mothers right here. You're not a mother, but did you say happy Mother's Day to your wife today? Yes. Okay, good job. You won, okay? But hey, we want to have a conversation about parenting today. And before we do that, before we jump into it, I want to introduce you to some of these amazing parents. On my left right here is my lovely wife, Jen McGee. So Jen, why don't you real quick introduce us to our family?
Our family, yeah. We are parents of 4 little girls.
Ooh.
I don't think that's a surprise.
It's a lot.
We've got 4.
I
hear one.
We heard one.
It can be a lot. It can be a lot of fun. But yeah, there they are. They're also awesome. They're sweet. All different personalities. We are in a sweet year because they're all in elementary school for 1 year.
Yeah.
And then after this, it's gonna just be crazier.
Gets crazy. But we're gonna need your answers on that in just a minute.
I'm looking forward to that because we are about to hit middle school.
Right here on my left, this is Pt3. They say the Dos Equis man is the most interesting person in the world, but I would beg to differ. It's this lady right here. Phenomenal.
It's also her birthday.
And today is her birthday.
Let's leave with that, Mitchell.
Say happy birthday. So the 2 things you asked me not to do, I just did. So would you tell us about your family?
Yes, so I'm Sheba Titus. I'm married to Dr. Jito Titus. Most of you know him as a coach in transit. I think I'm here today because I have 2 young children. Kirtan Titus, he is 9 years old, and I just thought I'll have more time before I can't answer his questions, but I can't answer any of his questions. So I direct him to Dr. Google, which is, it's actually what I call my husband, he has answers. And if that doesn't work, I send him to Alexa, or if that doesn't work, then it's actually Pastor Andy Stanley that I direct those questions. So that's Kirtan for you. And then I have a kindergartner, a 6-year-old Raina, who honestly, I really do believe that God made her just for me, handcrafted her to kind of show me this world of drama. And, but also humility. And, it's fascinating. And we are working parents, and we're trying to figure this out.
I love that. Hey, Elaine Scott, everyone. Elaine's on our staff here at Woodstock City. Yeah, some people love you out there. Elaine, tell us about your family. Introduce us.
So my family is my husband, who also gets to work on staff here at Woodstock City. His name is Al. We've been married about 24 years. So we've got that under our belts, and we have 2 children. I think they're going to show a picture of them. My son Harrison, he's 22 years old, right there in the center. He's such a good-looking guy, like his dad. And then his bride Alyssa on the to his right there, and she's just beautiful. And then my daughter, the bronze beauty there. She found out that I was doing this panel today, and I asked her if it was okay if we talked about whatever, and she said it's fine. She goes, as long as you let me approve all photos you may show of me, and tell them that today is my 20th birthday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Today's her birthday.
So Kat may be listening, so just clap for her. Say,
no.
She's not watching. She doesn't care about you anymore.
No, she's heard me all her life.
Yeah,
she's not.
You've given her all the advice. And right next to you is Steve Miller. Most people are thinking, Steve Miller Band? No relation.
No.
Okay, but you're going to be fun nonetheless. Introduce us to you and your family.
My name's Steve Miller. I am one of those production volunteers running around in black shirts a lot, and it's a lot easier on that side of the camera than this side. But I think backstage I've given enough of my Steve-isms that Mitchell finally said, let's get you out here and talk to everybody.
Yeah.
So my wife and I, Maureen, have been married for 31 years. We have a 27-year-old daughter who is doing very well out in Texas, and a 25-year-old son who's doing well in
What's up with this photo, bro?
Yeah, everyone gets a picture, and they get these nice family portraits, and I bring this. So that's us. That's how we play.
Unbelievable. Steve's also a pilot. You may get on one of his planes every once in a while if you fly Delta, so you're in good hands. And then last but not least, this is my second favorite mom. Well, you're really my first favorite mom, because that's my mom, everybody. Connie McGee over there. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Good to see you. Love you too. Okay, sorry. Okay, Mom, you did such a great job with me, I thought I'd invite you. Just tell them what you did. I'm just kidding. Mom, you're amazing. You're from Dublin, Georgia, South Georgia girl. You're gonna hear as soon as she talks. But why don't you introduce us to your family real quick?
All right, so Mitchell's number 3 in the line of children. I have 4 sons.
Yep.
And I guess my uniqueness to this panel is that after almost 20 years of marriage, we got a divorce, and so became a single parent household. Not a single parent because they have a father who loves them very much and just not in the same household anymore and not even in the same town. So I had to try at that point to learn to parent a little bit differently. They were 14, 12, 7, and 2 when we became a single parent household.
Did you hear that gasp out there?
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Yeah, they're probably like, how did you do it?
If you have any questions, just ask me. But no.
No, we're about to ask you. We're about to ask you. That's why you're here. My mom says she used to tell people all the time. She's like, "How did you raise these 4 boys? On your own?" And she's like, "Well, they all had a drug problem." And I was like, she's like, "I drugged them to church." So, Mom, thanks for dragging me to church. Just a question for the panel, and I want you to think about this right now. Do you have a favorite?
Yes, I do. Without a doubt.
You have a favorite?
Yes.
Yeah.
Alex is my favorite son.
He only has 1 son.
He's such a dad. He's a dad joke.
Dad joke.
You only have 1 son, Steve. Elaine.
My daughter will tell you that my son is my favorite, and my son will also tell you that he is my favorite.
Oh, wait, there might be something to that one.
No,
I'm kidding.
I'm just saying that's what they would say.
They would say that. Mom or Connie?
Yeah, Mitchell would say that he is your favorite.
No. My baby brother is her favorite, for sure. 100%.
I'm pretty sure we have polled your brothers, and they have all said.
Now, all 3 of my brothers say I'm her favorite. But I would say my baby brother is the favorite. He gets the favoritism for sure.
Well, no. At different periods of time, each of y'all has had to be the favorite because you needed the most attention. And sometimes that was you often.
What the?
That's true.
That was you sometimes.
Hey,
But
turn
anyway.
her mic off. So let's.
Yeah, different seasons is what your mom's saying,
seasons.
right? But speaking of, we want to get to the meat of why we're here.
Yeah.
We want to talk about how you did this. How did you raise your kids? And I think we should start with infancy. Toddlers.
Start at the bottom.
We are just exiting out of preschool years, but they were not easy.
Yeah, it's tough.
So take us back.
Like Gavin said, they don't come with an instruction manual. So you bring home this bundle of, well, they call it a bundle of joy, but it doesn't feel very joyful while you bring this thing home and you don't know what to do with it. Community helps. Get involved, get connected with others who can help, and people who've been there a few years ahead of you, a phase of life ahead of you, something to help. And for us, our church was what got us help.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, when, those infant days, you don't really remember much because you're just completely sleep deprived. I'm sure there are parents here who are probably taking a nap. This is your only time. But preschool, I distinctly remember preschool because I remember, the weight of just the unknown, of not knowing, okay, what is it going to be like? How do I guide my children through this next phase? And I remember one evening at Watermark Church, I was standing on that corridor with my husband, and we were extremely, extremely scared. Had a 4-year-old, a 6-month-old, and at that time, this idea dawned in our mind. And I decided that I'm going to go ahead and volunteer at Upstreet 1 grade ahead. My son was going to start pre-K, and I just thought, okay, if I go ahead and volunteer for kindergarten, I'll be 1 step ahead, and maybe this will train me. So my 11 o'clock parents, actually, this is my hour. I'm really missing being with my children at Upstreet, but I know that you all really look at me as a teacher, but in all honesty, I'm a student of your children, and I've learned so much about pace, about patience, about possibilities, through communication. And I think the beauty of it is that I can look completely astonished because they do say very interesting things at Upstreet, and that helps me to keep that poker face at home when my children actually say it. So one grade ahead.
That's brilliant.
That's so wise. So if you didn't hear anything today, go volunteer. And volunteer one grade ahead of where your kid is so you can figure this stuff out. But we really are. We're trying to figure this out. There are a lot of people in the crowd right now trying to figure out, okay, I just got this baby, or they just started walking, they're just about to go to school. What are those struggles in those years? What do you remember about those years that you would say, I remember this?
Well, can I start? One of the struggles that I think we faced early on, not so much maybe our children faced, but we knew, Al and I both come from dysfunctional backgrounds, and so I came from an abusive past, and my husband came from a divorced past, and all the stuff that you can imagine comes with that. And so we knew that we were coming into parenting, we had the potential for that same dysfunction to come into our circle. Yeah. So one of the things that Al so wisely let out on was he just said, Elaine, we're just gonna draw a circle around our 4. And around that 4, the 4 of us in this circle, it's going to be a safe place, and it's gonna be a secure place for each of us. We can't control what's gonna happen in the world out there or with our families, but we're gonna control how we talk to one another here, how we honor each other, how we respect one another. And we just decided to protect our kids, that the dysfunction would stop at our doorstep in as much as we can handle it. So it even started with their first birthday party, where we had one party as opposed to several parties to accommodate several families. In that we did one party, we did Christmas at home. We didn't do a Christmas on the road to satisfy all the different families involved in that. We just said, this is where we're gonna start every Christmas, and then after that,
everybody
we'll
else is like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, we really did. It's the hardest is the first year you do it, and then after that, it's a little bit easier. But that's one of the things that helping us prepare us for the struggles ahead. It helped alleviate so many of the struggles that could have happened.
Man, I mean, what intentionality does it take to say, we're gonna set up some boundaries, we're gonna figure this out? I mean, I remember I was 7 when, so you talk about these boundaries and these going holidays. I was 7 when my parents got divorced, and I remember holidays were the worst. And I don't know if you came from a broken home, or if you're a part of, figuring out how to cohabitate with dropping your kids off at a spouse's house. But those days were hard. And if I were going to say to a parent who is trying to navigate that right now, I would say, be gracious to your kids. The saddest moment in my life, and I remember it to this day, was my dad picking me up on Christmas Day because I wanted to be at home. And I couldn't figure out where my home really was as a 7-year-old. And so be gracious with your kids. They didn't ask for any of that. And so what you're talking about when you say boundaries, your kids didn't ask for the dysfunction. Right. Your kids didn't ask for all of that stuff. And so I would just say be gracious with them and create some boundaries to protect your 4. Any other struggles? I mean, boundaries seems like a really big deal.
The time thing seems so overwhelming when they're little, especially. You just feel so immersed and overwhelmed with trying to raise kids. And you just want to get through the day. You just want to get to the end of the day and relax and breathe and sleep and wash, rinse, repeat, do it again tomorrow. Enjoy those moments. Enjoy those moments. They go by a lot faster. Yes, they are all consuming, but get what help you can from whoever can help you, and enjoy those moments. Don't miss out on all those precious little things, always worrying about the next phase. I think we were a little too much focused on getting there specifically, properly, perfectly, and just enjoy that moment.
So how do you enjoy them? Seriously, how do you enjoy them?
You be present, and you understand that they are making age-appropriate decisions. So you can't expect your 4-year-old to think like you do as a 35-year-old or whatever. And the same thing as they get a little older. They are going to be doing things that are appropriate to their age and their abilities. And enjoy those, embrace those, and nourish them. And give them that safe spot where they can be the best them, whoever they are, you know. So you need to create a safe thing. And the safest, best gift, we found the best gift you can give your kids is a strong, healthy marriage. So that way they knew that mom and dad weren't going to divorce and deal with the stuff that Mitchell talked about when he was 7. So the strongest marriage is going to help make your kids feel safe and secure.
Can I just add on top of that, though? I know we're talking about in the context of marriage up here, but I do want to say that when you can't, like, sometimes it just doesn't work, and you end up, and you find yourself parenting like you did, Connie, and just in the hope that is there you can still be safe, and you can still create a secure home for your children in the time that they're there. It's not dependent on marriage or being married in that. It's so important that you just remember your own health and your own sense of clarity around the end in mind, what that goal is going to enable you to make great choices for your own health and the health and safety of your kids.
Yeah. And in that regard, I came from a single parent household myself. My father has not been part of my life for the past 50 years. But my mother did give me that safe sense of security on her own. So it's easier as a parent if you have a partner, but without a partner, you can still give that safe, loving situation for your child.
For sure. I love that. Connie, you
Well,
got something down
so
there?
I'm probably very, very far removed from having the infancy, bring home newborn stage. I just remember it being great. Mine read the same manual I did. They slept like they were supposed to and did great. But I do remember when it came to the point that they were all around me. They were kind of overwhelming at times. And I distinctly remember a time when I had a little meltdown in my kitchen with all 4 of them kind of yelling for something or wanting something immediately. And I had a lady that had kept our kids while both of us were working. And she was there and she said, "Now, Miss Connie, I'm going to tell you, now they're stepping on your toes when they're little like this. But when they get bigger, they're going to be stepping on your heart. And that's a lot harder." And I thought, well, that's crazy. That's not encouraging. But, you know, later on I thought, that's true.
When it helped you enjoy that season.
You know, right, exactly. Right then I was dealing with toddlers and elementary age school children. And later I did deal with their hearts much more. And God equipped me to do that when that season came in our lives. So, yeah, it just taught me to appreciate each stage and enjoy that and to learn how to deal with each one as it came and not to anticipate too far in advance.
I love that. I love that. Jen, you work in middle school ministry.
Yeah, I like to say I'm prepared for this next phase.
Yeah.
But the truth is we're not. You know, we've got 4 girls in the house. And I mean, really, what you guys have all talked about and touched on, I can look back at the infancy and think, no, that was fine. We made it. Like,
you kind of forget.
You forget. You forget how tired you were.
Yeah.
And honestly, you kind of still stay a little tired, right, as you keep going, just in different ways. But I feel like we're making it through, and our daughter is about to hit middle school, and she is going to be leading the way for her sisters.
She went to a 5th grade dance this weekend. When did they start that?
I don't know. I got a chaperone though. Hey,
It seems like the dumbest idea I've ever heard of.
but see. But we had to be all in because she was so excited.
So excited.
Anyway, so I work in middle school and transit. I feel like I like to say I'm prepared. I'm ready for this, and I am because I have transit. However, I would love to know. Really, we would love to know, how can we get ready for middle school, high school?
Yeah, I have that same question. You know, I talked about how I joined Upstreet. My husband actually chose transit because he was like, I need to go through transit 3 times before my children.
That's 9 years. 9 years.
Yeah, I think he's been through 5 already. So, but I cannot even imagine that point in my life where I'll be ready for middle school.
Do you want to go first, Steve? Well, I would just say this, that we had my son, who went through relatively unscathed because he was oblivious. You know, I mean, boys just kind of have that way about them. They can just go through, and he had a great middle school experience. My daughter, on the other hand, is one of those examples where in parenting, you sometimes get these bombs thrown into your life, and you don't really know, you're not seeing it coming, and you don't know what to do when it goes off. And so you talked about transit and what a gift. Transit is a gift, and for those of you who have kids in transit or any of our family environments, just know that the church really does want to partner with you. When Kat was in middle school, she came home from one of their weekend retreats, and the leaders called me over and just said, hey, we just want to let you know she had a great experience, but she admitted to the group that she is cutting. And I thought to myself, you have the wrong parent. This is the wrong child, because my child doesn't do that. I would know if my child was cutting. I had no idea that she was cutting. And so I went home, and Al and I had to have the conversation around how do you navigate that, because they do it in a way that you can't see. I had no clue my daughter was being bullied at school. She kept it all to herself. She's a very independent young lady. And so went through that and figured out the process of how to get a counselor, doing all of this. And I'm thinking, we're on church staff. We're like professional Christians, and this is happening. How is that possible? And then she went on another transit retreat, and they came back again and said, hey, she had a great time, group, everything's awesome. You should probably know that your daughter is having suicidal thoughts. And I thought, she's not going on any more transit retreats or something, and I just remember thinking to myself, how is this possible? Like, what is going on here? And so then Al and I met with the counselor and found out that she needed a psychiatrist, and they actually ended up saying, your daughter has bipolar disorder and severe anxiety. And so we found ourselves on the roller coaster, and it's a very lonely roller coaster to be on. There's not a guidebook, and every child is so different, and you just feel completely alone. And it's like parenting is like trying to hit a moving target in the dark when you have a child like this. And I just remember she was hospitalized and got to a point where Kat even had to stop coming to church. It wasn't working for her. It felt unsafe for her, and I just felt like such a failure as a parent, because nothing was going right. Every strategy we tried, she was such a different child, and navigating her through those middle school years, and then learning that, hey, you know what, we're not failures because our child has struggles, and we're not failures because we love her and we're trying to figure out how to help get her the help she needs. And sometimes you're in a culture that treats a mental illness like it's a cold that she's going to recover from, and there is not recovery. It's more a chronic learning how to live with and navigating all of that. So I would say that the gift that transit was for us was just a partnership, and a small group leaders and small group that was in touch with her. Even when she had to stop coming to church, they still reached out to her. The community that was formed through those small groups and those leaders was amazing. And we learned that her behavior doesn't make or break us as parents, good or bad, and her behavior doesn't mean we're good or bad, and her cycles of what she would go through doesn't make her a good or a bad kid. She's not a bad kid because she struggles.
Yeah.
So middle school proved to us to be one of the most challenging times in our season of parenting and all of that. So we learned not to gauge success or failure in any of that. We just showed up every single day, and we thought the win today is, does she make it to the end of the day? Yes. And then we started over again tomorrow.
Which again allows you to enjoy today.
It really does help you. It makes everything else kind of falls away, and you get on what is the one most important thing that can happen today is to get her through to the end.
Man, I'm so sorry. And thanks for sharing that. I mean, there's probably a lot of people in the room, if you're like me and us, we've had our own issues where we felt isolated and we felt like we're the only one who's experiencing this. You're the only parent who has a kid struggling with anxiety and depression. And if there's anything you take away from here today, if you feel like you're parenting in isolation right now, you're not alone. You are not alone. If you had a miscarriage and you thought you were the only one, you're not the only one. If you've tried to become a mom and you couldn't become a mom, you're not the only one. You're not alone today in your parenting journey. And sometimes maybe the best thing to do is to actually voice that. Because when you voice something, all of a sudden you find out, everybody's with me. And I'm not doing this alone. And so you may just need to know that you're not doing this alone today. Anything else about?
There is no one-size-fits-all solution to this. So we all have our issues. Every child's going to be different. What's going to help the kid most likely succeed is some tried and true methods. And for us, we found that the tried and true method came from some church-based parenting advice that said, hey, think of others first. So we started teaching our kids to think of others first when they were little, so that when they got to middle school and started getting some of that squirrely behavior, they weren't as bad. Okay, but we also realized they're still middle school.
Well, you have something to come back. Yeah, you at least
Right.
have an anchor to come back to.
They had something to come back to. But we also realized we had to step up our game because we couldn't ask our kids to think of others and then not think of others.
Whoa. Yeah.
So they were watching us. But just be consistent and be present with them as they navigate. Ideally, as they get into the middle school years, they can use some of the knowledge you taught them when they were younger and then apply it to their life situations, like their 5th grade dances or whatever it is that seems to be a big deal at that stage in life. You've equipped them with some foundational tools. And again, we use our faith-based information that we loved, but whatever you find out is what's important for your family, stick to that and make sure you train your kids so that when they get older, they can make their own decisions and ideally follow your path too.
I love that. Sheba, you got something?
I was just saying that is so encouraging to hear because, I come from a completely different culture where transparency wasn't the thing. We kind of kept our struggles to ourselves. It was just something that's the environment we grew up in. And I think here, the posture is, stay teachable. And for example, last year when our church hosted the Parent Unscripted a series, I remember dropping off the children at a friend's place, and they asked me, why are you dropping us off? Where are you going? And we said, oh no, we're going to go for some parenting classes. And my kids were bug-eyed, and they were like, you mean you don't know how to be a parent? Of course, it was, we had to confess, but I think being transparent and really, because like I said, parenting is as much about us as it is about them. And this is the first time we are doing it.
Yeah.
And I think for them to know that we are learning and we are leaning, I'm hoping that would make a difference.
That's so
with
great.
them.
And if the kid, it's what you're talking about, modeling. What are you modeling? So middle school and high school is something we refer to as the coaching years. It's kind of like you're standing on the sideline, you're kind of watching them, function at sporting events, function in school, do their own homework. Man, isn't that great if they could do their own homework? And so you're kind of coaching. What was important? Modeling something was important in these years. What was important in the coaching years for you guys?
Oh, for us, hands down, we wanted to make sure that we had time together as a family. With my travel schedules, the kids and their sports schedules, my wife and her teaching schedule, life got really, really complicated, really busy, way too fast. We made it a priority to sit down and have one family meal a week where we sat there and were just present with each other, not with our phones and no electronics at the dinner table kind of decree, but we would just enjoy each other's company and learn and talk and connect. That was just so important. That way we sort of knew where they were at and they felt safe to talk about what they were dealing with.
Anything from you?
Yeah, Steve, I've heard you say this before, but that is so helpful for parents like us to just 1 meal a week. That is so doable for us to do. I think so.
Yeah, we have the Instapot.
Yes, we have DoorDash. Delivery. But to get 1 meal a week, what that consistency can create for our kids, that time around the table.
And the safety.
And the safety. We play this silly game that keeps them talking.
Every night at dinner.
It's not every night. It's the one night a week that we can get, when we're sitting
every
around
night
that
that we
table,
eat dinner.
keeping expectations where they are.
Yeah.
But it's an ABC game. It's someone starts with letter A and they've got to name their favorite name or their favorite movie that associates with that. And it's really funny watching them. Again, we're in elementary, so we're not into the bigger things yet, but I can hope that is creating time for later. Where that can feel safe.
Well, one of the things that I would say is to let your child fail. Don't rescue them out of every single scenario. I told you my son made it pretty unscathed through middle school, but high school, he loved high school. He loved all of his grades, and he loved church because he's a highly relational kid, so he had lots of friends. It was the schoolwork part that was like such a hard thing for him. He didn't really love schoolwork, and Al kept saying to him, the choices you make today are going to influence the opportunities you're going to have tomorrow. The choices you make today are going to allow you to have greater opportunities later on. And Harrison would hear it, still not do his homework, still not turn it in. And he struggled with his grades, which limited his opportunities for college later on. But I remember Al and I having those conversations about do we help him with his homework? Do we do his homework? Do we, what do we do here to get him? And the decision was just, hey, he's either going to learn it now while he's under the safety of our roof and learn it in a tough but way that's going to change his life in the long run. And that's what we decided to do, was to let him kind of fail and then struggle with having limited options later on.
Mom, do you remember letting me go to summer school?
I do. When other parents went up there and did what it took to get their child through
it wrecked me as a kid, because I thought I failed a class and my mom is letting me go to summer school.
And the biggest thing was it made you miss one baseball season.
And I missed a whole baseball season, which was my life at the moment. And I remember the other parents went up and fought for their kids to get a passing grade so they didn't have to go to summer school. I could give you really good advice and tell you that the kids whose parents did that still can't make decisions for themselves at 35. So thank you for that. Yeah.
I wanted to say about middle school, though, before we leave. That, for me, that was a really tough age with 4 guys to try to figure out how to influence them. And so many things I couldn't really talk to you about, or that y'all wouldn't talk to me about. So that's when I did what y'all are doing. I became very, very involved in getting my kids into a church that would really nurture them and mentor them. And our church, right about the time the 2 youngest boys started, we were really having the small groups and accountability groups. Before that, it was just coming to youth activities and all, but very strategically, I chose some honest to goodness, awesome guys that they could be in an accountability group with. And so all through junior high and high school, they went every week with these guys who poured into them and loved them and just were a good, godly male role model for them. And that made all the difference for me. It helped me, but it was really an awesome experience, I think, for them to have that.
Yeah, I mean, I told those guys would pick me up at 6:30 every Tuesday morning, and I would tell them stuff I would have never told my mom, and still haven't. We could probably have a session on that, And but
let's not.
No, but we won't. We won't. But I think what you're talking about is so key, because as a single parent, you still have to parent in community. When you're a married couple and you're parenting, you still have to parent in community. There's that saying that we all don't love. It's like, it takes a village, but it does. And we're so much better together than we would ever be on your own. So not having to stand alone, that was brilliant. So, and I'm grateful for that.
So let me add this. During that same time, since I had to put up with 4 boys all the time, I just craved community with girls. So I started doing small groups with teenage girls. So for those years too, I had girls at my house every Tuesday morning in our accountability small group. And so that gave me an opportunity to be able to see parenting from a different side, but it also gave me the opportunity to have some really awesome girls in my house. And from that period of time, my 2 youngest sons both married girls that were in my small groups. So Jennifer is one of those. So
come on. Okay.
So hey,
arranged marriage.
It turned out in my favor.
It turned out.
And I'm so grateful.
Well, I might have some perspective on that, because so we had the real arranged marriage, but that has been something that I've been thinking about, like, what do you do? I come from a culture where, there was no concept of dating, at least at that time, there's no concept of dating. I always knew that my parents were going to pick my husband, and so my mind was tuned to that. And then now I see like pictures of proms. You're telling me that 5th grade dance? And there's no way I would even know how to navigate this. And this is something that my husband and I talk about a lot. We don't know what it means to grow up in America. And so one way we responded to that is we decided to go ahead and host a community group. And the beauty of our group, I don't know if some of the couples are here, is that we're from 4 different countries. And so, we definitely have America, we have Venezuela, Brazil, India. The food is really good every Friday night. But more than that, we get to kind of be very candid about our struggles, about our questions, about, these kind of decisions, and that has really helped. And also we have our community group where all of us are in different seasons of life, so we can learn from each other. And it's been great because our children are watching us be in community, and they actually play community group
I love
together.
that. I love that. All right, listen, we have to wrap this conversation up. If you could, in 10 seconds, I'm gonna give each one of you 10 seconds, all right? What's the most important thing? Like, what's the most important thing for us to get right in parenting?
I think the most important thing is to offer to your children a healthy self that is working on themselves. It's not that you're perfect, but just to be working on yourselves, to be a safe and healthy parent for your kids.
I love that. Steve, most important thing for you?
I agree with that, and then continue with be consistent. Explain what the standards are and uphold the standards, model the standard and expect them. So just be consistent.
That's great. I love that.
I
Mom.
think just being very present, and I think showing your devotion to your relationship with the Lord. I think that's a big thing that I always wanted y'all to see me reading my Bible and doing quiet time and see that was important to me.
It was. It benefited me.
Yeah, I would say pray. I watched my mother pray through everything, and now I find myself just doing that, and my kids are watching me, pray just about everything.
Man.
So.
Yeah.
Jen.
And then I would really just create an approachable environment. I want our kids to be able to come to us with things, anything about us or anything in, just in life. To feel safe with that.
They're definitely feeling more safe to do that. This weekend.
Are you talking about?
Yeah, this weekend we had an experience where Steve says this to me all the time. He says, more is caught than taught. It's like they're watching you, And so we had an experience this weekend at a Mexican restaurant where evidently my kid had seen me do something and she felt the freedom to tell me. So
yeah, that's true.
Do you have 20 seconds to tell that story?
I will, sure. Our oldest, who's 11, turning, moving into middle school, about a month ago, she was sitting on this for a while. It's like, Mom, can I tell you something? Sure. I think Dad's negative. Like, he's just always negative. And I was like, okay, tell me, don't freak out. Tell me, what are you talking about? And her example was about a concert we had been to. Her favorite singer, and Mitchell, in his job and what he does.
I was critiquing the whole thing,
evaluating
guys.
the concert, and was very we're often vocal, with probably an opinion that we shouldn't. They're always listening. And she just took that as a negative thing. And so I encouraged her to think about, I think you need to tell Dad and give him that info, that feedback. Let him know how you feel about that in the right setting, not when Dad is upset with you. Don't lead with, come back with, well, you're always negative. That's not helpful. But in the right moment. And she chose a Mexican restaurant when we were celebrating our youngest's birthday. Dad, can I tell you something? And
I said, sure.
Sure. He looked to me, I affirmed her. And yeah, we're just always learning. We're definitely learning from our kids, and they are watching us closer than we think.
Yeah, and I had an option in that moment. I could be in control, like I usually try to be, or I could say I'm sorry.
Yeah, and our other children were watching that response as well. So that was a learning moment.
For once, I
sure.
got it right. I said I'm sorry, and I think it created safety to where my kids could actually come to me with hard stuff. So, no, don't.
He's going to be careful how he talks about their favorite singers.
I'm going to be very careful now.
For sure.
So, would you please tell these folks thank you for their time today? Thank y'all. As we wrap up today, Gavin, I want to invite you back up here with us real quick. I would love to ask the same question of you, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You've got 4 kids, and lovely 4 kids, by the way. You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And you
blame Chantel for that.
You're our pastor.
Yeah.
And you care about us, and you want us to get this thing right, and we want to get it right. So what's the most important thing right now?
Yeah,
for you?
well, yeah, for me, I've got 4 kids, and they're all so drastically different, which makes it so hard because it's like you're parenting four unique, species of alien or something. So it's just real difficult. But I remember a long time ago in a church setting, somebody telling me that everything that you will ever want with your children requires a relationship. So a relationship is a prerequisite for everything that you're gonna need later. And I remember thinking, right now I just need sleep. Like the relationship, I'm not so sure. Now that I have a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old and my 11-year-old is cool. I mean, she's in 5th grade too, but I mean, she's sassy and it's middle school, it's already happening, and so I'm like, oh no. And that's right, it's the relationship. Yeah. So what I would tell people is, God, I was taking so many notes too as you guys were talking, so I haven't thought as much. But yeah, it's relationship. Like, don't freak out about the big stuff, but if you're gonna fight for anything, fight for the relationship. Like, just fight for the relationship. No matter what's happening, no matter how big or bad or difficult or who they bring home or what they said or what they even did, like, all of that's important, but none of it is more important than the relationship. So if you're gonna fight for anything, fight for that relationship and figure out a way to kind of build into the rhythm of your home a way to fight for the relationship. And if I could, just really quick, I think also fighting for the relationship with your Heavenly Father is maybe the thing that is the precursor to the relationship with your kids. Because they, as you said, Steve, they're watching you. They're gonna take their cue from what they see in you and experience with you. And if you're fighting for your relationship with Jesus, they're gonna wanna do the same thing. And trust me, my daughter is 19. I'm not an expert by any stretch. I can tell you though, I have never been more grateful for her growing up in this church environment and experiencing Wambaland and Upstreet and then Transit and Inside Out. And now she's in the living room. And as just a father, not as a pastor, as a father, I am such a satisfied customer of this church. And and I know that the world is going to fight for your child's time and for your time. The world is gonna convince you that all the activities and the travel sports and all that stuff's all great and within its own context, it's all wonderful. None of those things are more important than your child's relationship with Jesus, because when they're 30, their foundation in baseball is not what's gonna help their marriage. It's their foundation in Christ that's gonna change their life. And you know that. So I think my encouragement to you would be to fight for your relationship with your kids and fight for your relationship with Jesus, because in the end, that's really the only thing that's gonna matter. And so with that, would it be okay too if we just pray for everybody? I know you guys talked about praying a lot, man. I've never prayed more in my life right now than for my children. And so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna pray and we're gonna actually sing a song together. And the song we're gonna sing says, Lord, I Need You. It's the name of the song. And you know what's interesting about this song is that I think as parents, we would all go, yeah, come down front, like on my knees, Lord, I need you as a parent. But the reality is that parent or not, we just need Jesus. Like we need Jesus for every day. We need Jesus for parenting, but we need him for everything, whether it's figuring out our marriage, figuring out how to single parent, figuring out how to navigate life in any way, shape, or form. It really does come back down to that foundation. Some of you grew up in that. It's been a little easier for you. For some of you, that's newer for you. So maybe this song, as we sing it, maybe it's an opportunity to reflect on what it means for you just as a parent to lean into your relationship with Jesus. Maybe it's just an opportunity to lean into your relationship with Jesus and what it means for your life and what you're working through or dealing with just right now. So as we get ready to sing that, I just want to pray for you guys. But if you're a parent, you probably don't want to do this, but kind of have to. Would you mind just standing up so we can pray for you specifically as a parent? I know that's a little weird, but I know there's a lot of you in the room, so.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, wow. That's a lot of praying.
So good.
Hey, if you're not standing up, there may be a reason for that. That may be sad for you that you're not standing up. We also appreciate that and recognize that. We're gonna pray for you too. And so let's just pray together as a group. Heavenly Father, first I just wanna say thank you for sending your son, because without him, none of this would be possible. Everything would be impossible. But Father, because of his death, his love for us, because of your great love for us, we have the ability to have a right standing with you. And I think what's so amazing about that in our lives is that you knew from the very beginning that we weren't gonna get life right. And so you sent your son to die for the things that we weren't gonna get right. And you've forgiven us for all those wrongs. And you've even promised that your grace is bigger than all of our mistakes, and that includes our parenting mistakes. And so God, I guess it's in a way weirdly comforting to know that we're not gonna get it right, and that's actually okay. That when we don't get it right, that your grace will cover those wrongs. And when we say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or behave the wrong way in those moments that are just so difficult, that you have an ability to kind of redeem and restore and make things new. And so God, I think as a parent, I think we probably call on that maybe more than any, that you'll show us grace as parents, you'll show our children grace as we're trying to parent them, that maybe you'll show grace to their future, to the relationships they're gonna have, to the choices and the decisions they're gonna be forced to make. Because God, if there is anything we can say, it's that we need you, because we are fully aware that we just can't do this on our own. So Father, as we kind of sing this song really as a prayer, as a moment of worship, I just pray that we'll recognize maybe in our life what exactly we need you the most for, and help us to lean into you more than ever. Father, we love you, Jesus. We pray this in your name. Amen.